Hi everyone! I was planning to do a review of Chrono Odyssey, which will come soon, but one core aspect of any MMORPG is progression, and I felt like I had to make a whole video on that before getting to my review. In this video, I will explain the progression of Chrono Odyssey. There are several aspects to progression, and you can check the timestamps to skip to the parts you're interested in. There are already a few videos talking about progression, but in this video I will go more into depth and also predicting how it will be further into the game, based on my experience in playing other MMORPGs for decades and playing other games developed by Kakao Games such as BDO. The first thing we'll talk about is equipment score. This is a measure of your overall progression as far as your power goes, but it is only counting some specific things like your gear. But it does not give you a real idea of your power, especially when you consider your build. At this moment, it can only be used as an overview of where you're at in your progression, since it does not account for several aspects we'll discuss soon. The next thing we'll talk about is levels and masteries. Levels are very important, and like many other games, it gives you base stats, which makes you stronger. But crucially, it also allows you to equip stronger gear. You get the levels by completing quests and bounties, but also from dungeons and killing monsters. Right now it's hard to say what the main way to level up will be, considering the lack of content, but personally I got to level 15 just from the quests and bounties, then grinded monsters and dungeons to get to level 22. Here's a tip for lower level players. The Howling Pit is a great way to farm endless hordes of mobs if you don't kill the priest, which nets you a lot of XP. Your XP also goes towards weapon masteries, and as you level it you will be able to unlock additional abilities for your skills. They are truly powerful, but there is a maximum of 35 that you can have, so this is one place where there will be build diversity. Then we have permanent potions, which give you some additional base stats that stays forever, and those stat boosts are quite significant. They come from a variety of places, such as all types of dungeons including the challenge one where there are no mobs, quests, and exploration. Overall, as you play the game, you will get these, and there will be some priority items to go and collect since they are easy to get and they are limited, so you won't spend much time farming these. Next we'll talk about Chronotector Abilities. The Chronotector Abilities are definitely the most unique part of progression in this game. You get these abilities by following the main quest line, but something that many people didn't bother with is that you can upgrade these abilities in Citadel. And these upgrades are already massive, but right now they can only be upgraded once and it didn't seem that significant. Some important ones are Time Isolation, which you can use to stun others, and Summon, that summons one of the boss monsters from the main story to help you. The other two seem to be more important to progressing in the quest, because I can't imagine how the Detect and Time Reversal would work in a normal fight. Maybe Detect could see some use if there was a stealth class. You can only have one of these equipped at a time, and I saw most people just using the Summon as it was the most useful towards damage output. However, you get a ton of upgrade points for these by exploring and completing trial dungeons, and I also used the glitch to go see outside the closed beta region, and there were so many more of these orbs available, like up to 50 of them. That confirms that these Chronotector abilities will see even more upgrades later that will likely make them extremely important in battle. Right now many people didn't focus on them because of long cooldowns, but I believe more upgrades will lead to lower cooldowns, which one of the current ability upgrades already includes decreasing the cooldown by half. Now let's talk about gear, which is going to be the biggest aspect of progression. There is common, uncommon, rare, epic, and legendary gear tiers. Rare can be used from level 15, epic from level 25, with the exception of ancestral gear, and legendary seem to be from around level 40, which no one got even remotely close to. So far, we mainly only have information for gear in the rare tier and slightly into the epic tier, but we can imagine it will be similar into legendary tier with maybe even more complexity. By going to the crafting bench, you will find different armor and weapons you can craft. There didn't seem to be set effects, so you can get whichever item you like based on the main stat that they offer. For me, as a crossbow player, I was looking for all items that have crit rate as a main stat in my armors and weapons. Also, there are different crossbows with different stats, so I wanted to choose the stat that fits my playstyle, which for me was crit rate and movement speed. So you need to consider which stat you are aiming for before deciding which items to get. Now, you can craft any item that is available at the bench, or you can also drop them directly from most dungeons, but also other places around the world such as epic chests. The Howling Pit was the best place in the beta to farm gear and upgrade materials for rare items. But as we head into the epics, the party time portals might be more appropriate, especially to craft ancestral gear. The most important thing is that the equipment originally available at the bench are not the best ones available in that tier. Even for rare items, you could drop some design scrolls from the Howling Pit that gave you the ability to craft better rare items than what was available. For example, I was using the Remnant crossbow, and that's a rare crossbow that comes with crit rate and movement speed, but then I dropped a design for a better crossbow that came with the same stats, just better. So that had more of the same stats. So farming design scrolls will be important to get the best gear and craft it. We can imagine it will be similar for epic and legendary gear, where the ones originally available to craft are not the best ones, and you will need to farm dungeons to get design scrolls for the best ones. In the beta, the better rare design scrolls came from the Howling Pit, and it seemed like those items could only be crafted and not directly dropped. When crafting or dropping gear, it is really important to know that they aren't all the same. You can get the same item, but with a different equipment score, and the range is actually quite significantly large, like 10 equipment score difference between the best and the worst one. The stats on them are the same, but the value of the stat is higher on the equipment with higher equipment score, where for example a Remnant crossbow with a higher equipment score has a higher attack stat than the same crossbow with a lower equipment score. So this means that you will need to craft or drop your items several times until you get the best one. And in my experience, the best one is extremely rare, probably with a 5% chance or even lower. I personally never got any gear with the max stat in our short playthrough, but this is likely going to be very frustrating in the endgame, where getting even one of the items you want will be extremely difficult and time consuming, but you will need to do it maybe almost 100 times to get the best one with the highest equipment score. Next, let's talk about Enchanting, which is basically just upgrading your gear to +1, +2, etc. For rare items, it went up to +7, but maybe epic and legendary tier gear will go further than that. To enchant, you just need to go to the enchanter NPC in town, and it always upgrades with a 100% chance, which is good. And for the rare gear, the materials required were easy to farm from either the Howling Pit or some world bosses. The epic gear upgrade material wasn't available yet, but I imagine it also won't be too hard. However, this is where it gets complicated. When you get an item, it will have something called a prefix. A prefix is a random thing that gives base stats to the item. For example, we have Hunter, that gives the most dexterity, which translates to more damage. But there's also Sturdy Hunter that gives a mix of dexterity and vitality, and all the other combinations of the stats that are in the game will have their own prefix. Now, during this beta time only, it wasn't clear whether items can get any of the available prefixes with an equal chance, but it seemed like there was a higher chance to get prefixes that were more beneficial to the item itself, such as crossbows getting more hunter or hunter-based prefixes. Probably this is also applied to armor pieces that were damage focused, having a higher chance to give damage related prefixes. It could also have been 100%, I'm not too sure yet. But this is yet another RNG element, where now not only are you crafting the same item several times to get the highest stat and equipment score, but even if you get that, you still need to hope or recraft until you get the highest stat and the right prefix. I know I had to get a ton of Remnant crossbows before I got the base hunt prefix that gives flat dexterity. So this is definitely going to be another frustrating aspect of progression in the late game. But that's not even all. When you get an equipment, it also comes with a random attribute, such as increased damage, either PvP or PvE, or increased defenses, or other stats like movement speed, etc. Now, as you upgrade the item, they unlock more attributes which are also random. As far as I could tell, you could not get the same attribute twice on the same item. So again, another RNG aspect where you will need to aim for the right attributes. And like all the other RNG aspects so far, The only way to re-roll them was to craft the entire item again, then upgrade it again and hope for the best. Based on these aspects alone, you're no longer looking at hundreds but maybe thousands of attempts to get the perfect item. Okay, you may have noticed another NPC near the enchanter, and he deals with transferring attributes. You might think that this helps a lot with the previous part of getting the right attributes, where you just need to get the items with the right attributes and transfer it to the main item you're building. But unfortunately, that's just not how it works. The transfer NPC can only transfer special attributes. What are special attributes? They are attributes that some items have. The most obvious ones would have been the accessories, and you can identify these attributes because they are glowing, and any items that have a special attribute will also be glowing in your bag. Special attributes are not normal stat-giving attributes, but instead they give an additional effect to the item. One of the most powerful special attributes in the early game was from the Oathsworn Ring, that had a chance to give you and your allies a massive shield when getting hit. These special attributes are not random, and specific items will always have their respective special attribute. Accessories, armor, and weapons can all have special attributes, but each item can only have one special attribute on it at a time. I did not get enough time to test this properly, and it might have been possible to have more than one special attribute on an item through transferring, but definitely only one of each special attribute could be there, same as the normal attributes. The great thing is that you can talk to the NPC to copy a special attribute from one item to another. It has to be the same type of item, like a ring to a ring or a weapon to a weapon, etc. It cost some materials to transfer, but they were easy to get. The best part is that the item you copied this special attribute from does not get destroyed, so make sure you stock up on at least one of every item that has a special attribute, so you will always have them available to transfer later. The best example for this was with my crossbows. I had a great crossbow, but it didn't have any special attribute, so I farmed the Howling Pit until I got the special crossbow from there, and that crossbow has poor stats and is a low level item. However, I was able to copy that special attribute onto my main crossbow to make it even stronger. And you will do this type of transfer for all of your items, and this will lead to a lot of build diversity, which is great. And since the items don't get destroyed, this isn't really an RNG upgrade and it's just good overall. There is some RNG that could be applied though, because when you transfer your special attribute onto your item, one of your normal attributes will get replaced by it, and that is random. But if you do it before any upgrade, then you only have one normal attribute on your item, and that's the only one that can be replaced. Another non-RNG based upgrade is your skill jewels that you will be able to add into your gear. These jewels give your skills a level up, where the epic grade jewel adds 1 level and the legendary grade jewel add 2 levels. Just note that only one of each skill jewel is active, so if you put 2 legendary grade jewels for the same skill, it's not going to add 4 levels, it only adds the 2. This is the same for epic grade jewels too, where if you have a legendary and epic jewel, it's only going to add the 2 levels from the highest grade jewel you have on. In the beta, each weapon only had 1 skill jewel available, but I believe there will be more available later. However, you can equip skill jewels for different skills, and they will also apply. For example, you can add a legendary crossbow skill jewel into one item, and a legendary skill jewel into another item, and you will get 2 levels added into the crossbow skill, as well as 2 levels added into the bow skill. These jewels are easy to obtain in time portals and other dungeons, but just remember you can't remove them once added. So that was a summary of the progression, but it is even a bit more complex than what I have explained, where epic gear, which is considered tier 3, also has sub-tiers which can be even better, but generally they would be an entirely different item. And let's not forget, this is just a beta. We don't even know about the legendary grade items, which will probably have even more complexity. My overall thought is just that it is really complicated, but once you get used to it, it's not that hard to understand. But instead, I'm just really worried about the RNG elements to all the different attributes and equipment scores your items may get, where you will need to farm for a really long time to get the best one. But this is not the only thing worrying me, because as you may have thought about it while I was explaining, and the devs are definitely thinking about it too, is ways to reroll those stats to make it easier. And having played BDO, which is also made by the same devs, there will definitely be some pay to win that happens here, where you will be able to pay money to reroll the stats. But they won't call it pay to win because they'll also have a way to do it without paying money, which will probably take you days of farming or just take 5 minutes to swipe your credit card. I really hope that the devs don't choose that path and just make the whole attribute and prefix system simpler, but if they do go with the pay to win path, then I certainly won't be playing this game for long. Alright, I'll end this video here and you can look forward to my full review coming soon. Thanks for watching and I hope you found it useful. I appreciate the support on my channel and please let me know your thoughts below. See you guys next time.